I'm Michelle Miller, and I'm a teacher of visually impaired at Breathitt County Schools. And it was hard for me this year. Last year I did expanded core curriculum, and that's what a visual impairment teacher teaches. A lot of people, especially regular education teachers, kind of don't understand expanded core curriculum. So I talked about this year, and last year, and this year I didn't know what to talk about. So luckily, or unluckily, I had a problem a few months ago with a student who got all the way to 2nd grade and he hadn't been identified as having a visual impairment. But it goes deeper than you think. So my project is called Seeing, this lady right here came up with it, Seeing the Need to Consult Your Visual Impairment Teacher. So I'm gonna hand out, actually I think, did you guys do the goggles? I don't know if you did the goggles or not. I have simulator goggles of a few visual impairments here. Not all of them are what a kid would experience, but they're very similar. I'll just hand you some. And you can put these on. So for visual impairment, I feel like you need to see through their eyes and see the difficulty they may have. I'm gonna give you RP. Okay. And so look through those and try to read that screener I gave you. Try to read that screener I gave you.
Oh, Lord.
So imagine being a little kid, or even a little bit of an older kid, even any kid, and trying to read through that, right? Especially uncorrected, because some of these can be corrected. Brenda's especially, hers is myopia, which is nearsightedness. They can be corrected often. Yes, they can often be corrected with glasses or contacts. So, but imagine having this and it being undiagnosed or just overlooked. So I'll tell you the story before I get really started in my presentation of how I developed the idea to do this. I was leaving a school, and it was a bright, sunshiny day, and I saw this little boy on the playground out of the corner of my eye, and he was just swinging away, and I saw this beautiful white hair. And I stopped in my tracks and I looked over, and I was like, oh, and I thought, he has albinism. He is an albino if I'm standing here. So I stopped and I asked the teacher, I said, whose little fella is that? And she said, oh, he's mine. And she was the special ed teacher, actually. She said, he's on my caseload. He's MMD. I was like, oh, I said, he really looks like he might have albinism. She said, you think? I said, yeah. And the reason she never thought of this, and he's in 2nd grade and he's been in special ed since preschool, is because he also has a condition called ectrodactyly, and he's got claw-like hands, and I guess where he has all those other features that the albinism was kind of almost hidden, even though it was in plain sight. But to them, maybe they just thought, well, he's just fair-skinned, his hair's just light, his eyes were very, very bright blue. And he also had, she said, oh, but I'm glad you stopped too, because he has a lot of crusty eyes. Like, his eyes are always crusty, and we need to clean them all the time. And that's just something, about his eyes. And I was like, well, I'm gonna get permission and I'm gonna test him. And we took him to the eye doctor, me and the teacher did. And I'm glad she went with me because she knew him better than me. Well, it come to find out he had albinism. He has no tear ducts. His acuity was bad enough that would have placed him alone. And what was the other thing? Oh, he has photophobia, which is extreme light sensitivity, which is very common with albinism because they don't have pigment in their eye. And the photophobia was honestly the most concerning because he couldn't, even on an overcast day, go outside without having pain in his eyes. He'd say it hurts really bad. And he just always squints. His eyes are always watering from the photophobia and the lack of the tear duct. So it was just a whole lot of things that I couldn't believe he made it to 2nd grade And so I thought, how can I help this problem? And we got this check, it's a little screener, and I'm gonna talk about it, I'll talk about it more. Let's move on. I'll talk about the screener in a minute. So one is visual impairment. It is used to describe any kind of vision loss, ranging from someone who doesn't have sight at all to someone who has just partial vision loss or acuity. And IDA defines it similarly the same way. I'm not going to read every word to you guys. But, so it's partial sight and blindness. And what is visual acuity? Some people don't, that's a foreign word sometimes, acuity. So it's a measure of the ability of the eye to see and distinguish shapes. This is called a Snellen chart. That's what we all go to the eye doctor and they use the Snellen chart. So, or for kids who don't know their letters, they'll use shapes. It's important to get your acuity in a consistent way in order to detect changes in your vision, so you should go to the eye doctor yearly, and most of us do. What is 20/20? Does anybody in here know other than you? No, because she's a VI teacher. Know what 20/20 actually means? No. Well, 20/20 is considered perfect vision, and 20/200 is considered legal blindness. So if someone who is legally blind, what I can see at 200 feet, if I could see that tree and it was 200 feet away, but they had to be 20 feet to be able to see it, that's what 20/200 means. So whatever I can see at 200 feet, they can have to be at 20 feet to be able to even recognize it. So that's what legal blindness is. And how do students qualify? Well, of course, referral. We don't really have referrals in the VI world, but like I developed this screener as part of my referral. Because most often I get stopped in the hallway or something and like, hey, Miss Miller, can you check this kid out? And there are some steps that I take. There's no set referral for VI. There's really not, because there's no RTI for VI. You can't. Response to intervention would not improve VI. So it says the Kentucky Special Education Eligibility states ARC determines a student has a visual impairment and is eligible for SDI or Special Ed Services when, I think there's 4 of them. Number 1, and this is on your eligibility form. It's going to change. It's supposed to change really soon. They've actually broadened it, made it a little bit easier to qualify a student, because before I've had students I felt like should qualify and they didn't on paper, and it really bothered me. And I'm like, I really think they need the services, but in black and white it says no. But the first one is, of course, their acuity, the 20/200. The 20/70 will qualify them in the better eye, and it has to be correct. It has to be corrected. So correction means glasses. So even if they have correction, and if it's better than 20/70, then they don't qualify because it's corrected. So it has to be 20/70 or worse in the better eye. Students have a medically diagnosed progressive loss of vision field of 20 degrees or worse, so the visual field was compromised. I had a student that actually qualified this way. The teacher had concerns. He kept tripping, he kept falling. His peripheral was awful, but he did end up having amblyopia, which is a lazy eye and stuff like that. So that did contribute to his visual field loss. This is still on Infinite Campus this way. It says medically diagnosed condition of cortical blindness. You guys have probably heard of it, CVI, cortical vision impairment. That's what cortical blindness used to be called. So with CVI, it's becoming more and more common. I've got 2 or 3 on my caseload now, and with a lot of disabilities, CVI comes into play. So CVI, and the last one is just a functional loss of vision, a decreased acuity or loss of visual fields, all those things. It's just a whole combination of things. So how do you recognize the student? Again, we're going back to my screener. And when should you contact me? It doesn't bother me at all when teachers come up to me. Does it bother you? I'm like, sure, I'll look at them. They're a kid, and if there's a concern, sure, I'm going to look. But I do want them to be more equipped to really not maybe see things they wouldn't have seen without this. Like how I talked about the little boy's eyes. Crusty eyes is the second one on the appearance. Do you see? So if they had this screener, they would have been like, wow, he does. And they would have seen the extreme light sensitivity. So I'm hoping that my district actually adapts this to our referral process even. So here's the screener. The ABCs, so there's appearance, behavior, complaints, and school related. So there's the ABCs. I'm not gonna read all that. But if you fill this out, and I put up here in the directions that if there were several marks to then contact me or your TBI, your district's TBI, because the appearance, the behavior, the complaints, and the school related. So what happens after you contact the teacher of the vision impaired? Like I said, we don't have, does your district have a referral process for you?
No, I'm trying to make it my own.
Yeah, me too. We kind of make up our own referral process, which I mean, I'm sure that's fine with most TBIs, but you may come across a TBI that's not as proactive, possibly, and the kid could easily get swept under the rug and nobody would know.
I just tell mine, like, I give him, you have to fill out that whole referral document and show stuff. I said, you're probably already doing a lot of these things, like, and I give them some strategies.
Oh, really? I don't even do the referral.
Well, we do.
Oh, okay.
I do, like, just,
I don't.
You're probably already doing this. You've probably been doing it since you've had him, so he's probably sitting up front, he's probably, it's not gonna change, but while we're waiting on this eye report and stuff, we'll just.
Wow, no, I never do it. But that's good that your district doesn't have like some kind of traceable thing. But my district, I don't do a referral. I just get permission to test and then I go from there and I just test. And I even do my own reports. Like I don't have an official integrated report. I just have the FELMA, the Function, Vision, Learning, Media Assessment. I'll talk about that in a minute. So, of course, so after you contact me, I will check with the school nurse, or I often give it. I take the kid and I give them the Snellen, and if I see any concerns there, I'm like, okay, I need your eye report. So I contact the parent, I get their eye report. If they don't have one, I get the parents to take them to the eye doctor, give me a current report, or I take the kid. We took this little boy, we made a field trip of it, and we took him to the eye doctor and took him to Taco Bell. He loved it. So we had a good day that day. And then current exam, so that's basically the steps. And then after that, I do the evaluation part, which is I use that eye report. I conduct my own test, which is called a Function, Vision, Learning, Media Assessment, FELMA, and I also do an orientation and mobility screening. Orientation and mobility is a huge aspect of visual impairment, especially if the kid has visual field loss and stuff. They need cane training possibly, or how to navigate their community and their school safely. So we do a screener to see if there's any O&M concerns, and if there is, we contact the orientation and mobility specialist. We're not qualified to do an actual assessment there, or even give instruction in that. We can do follow-up instruction, but we cannot teach the kid how to use orientation and mobility. You have to be a specialist and certified. So here's the FLMA. It's a lot more than it looks like it is, and it takes many, many, many hours to complete. It's 2 assessments. You do the functional vision. That's how they navigate the environment, how they see in their environment, just functionally everyday activities. How do they do in that? And then the media, the learning media assessment is what computers do they need? Do they need magnifiers? What do they need to access curriculum or print? So that's the media aspect of it. So you use those both together because they're very important. So that's what I said. I already went ahead and talked about it without the slide. So there's the vision evaluation. We'll do, of course, the acuity, you do the visual fields, and just how well they see. And then here's the media. It may be just a computer. This is a magnifier. That's a magnifier. They may need Braille. And if they need Braille, of course, you do Braille instruction. So my takeaways are that it's important to teach teachers and staff to know how to detect possible vision impairments. And if unattended, this problem can only impact the student's academic performance, but they also do not develop certain social skills that they need. If you have any concerns, just utilize the ABCs screener here, and you consult your VI teacher. So does anybody have any questions?
What were the, like these slices, what was the,
What was that one? I think that's what I'm talking about. That's macular degeneration.
what about this?
And there is a form of juvenile macular degeneration. So you may have a student that can have that.
What's this one?
That one, what is that one, Tommy? I think that's retinopathy. Yeah, diabetic retinopathy.
Oh, okay.
Did you have a bingo card, Michelle? A bingo card you wanted to turn in?
I didn't have one, where were they?
We just signed in.
I didn't get one.
Just
Sorry.
yeah, mine's there.
Oh yeah, I got one, but it's over there.
I'll turn
Can I turn it in over there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it, sorry.
I was taking
And we can go, we can go.
I think they're gonna do the process.
I have a
Anyway.
question for you, and this is not probably related to anybody else except you and I.
Yeah.
And,
But they might want to hear it.
one problem that I have, like, when I am trying to qualify, we always like, it's just the way it's always been done, is you order or request the psychological, and a lot of that's vision related.
Yeah.
And I don't really like that because it looks like my kids are scoring lower with their IQ because a lot of it's vision related.
Yep.
And I just wondered, is that a necessary thing, or is it?
We had that with a student 3 years ago. Brendan was a student. And we did everything in the world to make it visually accessible to her. Had it on a board almost as big as this, and she still could not do those visual spatial things. So it was a very biased, it's called visually biased tests. They are visually biased. So what they did was they averaged it, they left that out, and they just averaged the rest. And it did give her a higher IQ than I thought she should have. It actually made her a higher IQ than I thought she was gonna get. So that's what our school psychologist did. She said, well, I can just say she was unable to attain to this task, and then I'll use the rest. But a lot of an IQ test, it's visual, spatial, working memory, it's all these things that are visual, and it's so biased.
Going back and forth and.
Yeah, it is. And there's no true way to, so, and we lean a lot on the academic testing in that situation too. I mean, because in reality, for students, you know, we are testing for special ed, I feel like the academic aspect is more accurate anyhow. Don't you?
I know on the IQ
Like a
test, I have done, like, we'll discuss the verbal comprehension is probably more accurate. for
Yes,
them.
exactly.
But I just wondered if it was even mandatory.
They got her an IQ, they did, and I don't know exactly how, it was Miss Johnson, I don't know how but she did say, we're just gonna toss this one out. She said, it's just not, and I said, yeah, it's not, because if she could see that, she could do that.
Mhm.
Or you can make tactile maybe, like get the IQ if it's the whisk, and you could do, because this little girl, I didn't think of that, I should have done that back then. You know, if it's got like match the puzzle, let her feel the puzzle and then her match the puzzle. You know what I mean? Probably make a lot of tactile representations. It take a while, but to be fair and give them equal access, you can make tactile examples. That's probably what I would do.
It's the same with our IQ test too, with our hearing impairment. We
Yeah.
have a nonverbal that we use in our district, it's not,
Uh-huh.
so it's verbal, so that puts our
They
kids
do
at a
that
disadvantage.
dominant test.
They're called bias testing. Yeah, it is. It's
And
very
then, you know, it's hard to get that testing just for one kid. You know, if it's an expensive test, it's hard for the district to make.
I
those
will
decisions.
say that anything I've ever needed, my district buys.
That's good.
Yes. They just bought me a $1,400 computer for a kid and, that's the device, or a $1,200 iPad and a $600 computer, that's what it was. An iPad that was this big, yeah, like a pro, so. And so they are good if it's for the kid. Now, if I ask for a bookshelf, they say no. Cause the janitors broke my bookshelf and they didn't replace it, but I'd rather get it for my kid than me anyway, so it was fine. But yeah, I would do tactile, maybe get that whisk and see what you can make for them to feel. Any other questions?